And hello again, dear ones. Rev BRZ with you over here.
Rev Z right here.
And this is New Thought Today, our weekly look at both the history of New Thought and where we're going in New Thought. So we want to thank you for joining us here today. This is a production of the New Thought Media Network, and we're so grateful for all that happens to bring the New Thought Media Network forward and to share this type of content with you. So welcome to the new year. This is our first broadcast of 2021. And just wanted to kind of say thank you for being with us in 2020. And to those that were with us for 2020 in this program, you know that what we looked at is we took a really, really deep and a very in-depth look at the Centers for Spiritual Living Global Vision. Z, out of all of that, Sanat, give us your 1 minute rundown. What's the most important part of all that?
Well, I think, if I had to kind of sum it up in a minute, it would be the first thing is the personal responsibility, that we each have to begin to be personally responsible for our lives and our actions, our words, our deeds. And in that being personal responsible, we begin to recognize the value that everyone brings to the table. And once we can do that, when everyone is being responsible, we can value them because we know that if they say they're going to do something, it's going to get done. Or if they're going to provide something, it's going to get provided. And so if we have that kind of a container where we're having a cooperative interaction, if you will, we can really begin to get the essence of that vision of a world that works for everyone. Just on those things alone, that everybody is taking personal responsibility to honor humanity and to value what everyone brings to the table and basically have them at the table when things are being discussed if they have something to add.
Yeah. All right. Amen. I could say the same thing in different words, folks, but why? And the man just told you exactly what we need to know there. So, and it's about working towards this world that works for everyone. And what we know is, and what we believe, at least in our discussion, the world's always changing. How we get to show up in the world is always changing. What we're being asked to do in the world is always changing. And so a world that works for everyone is not a static idea. It's something that's forever changing, evolving, emerging. And so what we strive to do in this program is, and what we intend to do throughout 2021, is to take a real look at what does it mean to live these principles today in what's going on with our world. And at the same time, add to the conversation by bringing the history, bringing the roots, if you will, of how we got to where we are today, bringing that forward as well. Before the show, Z and I were chatting about how sometimes the greatest learning in this philosophy happens in the classroom, because it's in the classroom that we get to really dig into real life. What happened between last week and this week? What happened over the last 3 days? It doesn't always happen on a Sunday morning service or in other avenues. Sometimes that greatest learning happens because we get a chance to dig into it.
Yeah.
And what I remember from my classes is we were always really talking about, well, how would Ernest look at it? What did the book say about it? What author said this? So today what we want to do is introduce you to a little bit of history as well, and sort of tie those two together, how we got to where we are, and what got us to where we are, and can we still use these things? Right. So we're going to start. Well, go ahead and set it up, Z. Share what you want to share, and then we're going to show the movie.
Yeah. And I mean, because you just put in, Ernest used to always say, like you said, we don't always get these principles by lecture or reading the books or whatever. His patented statement, as far as I was concerned, says, don't take my word for it. Go out and practice these ideas, these concepts, these principles in the laboratory of your life. Then you will begin to understand how they work, how you apply them, and the benefit you get from them by doing that. And so very fitting with the idea of religious science is that you go in as a scientist and you try this in the laboratory of your life. Does thinking positive work? do saying affirmations and prayers and having good thoughts actually benefit me and give me some kind of manifestation that I can say, check, this is what's happening when I do this. The law of correspondence kicks in right away.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So here's what we're going to do, folks. I pulled up something that I created 3 years ago. We're what? Today's the 5th. So 2 weeks shy of 3 years ago. I created this little video that shares, what we believe. Ernest Holmes's original, what is known as the Declaration of Principles in Science of Mind and Religious Science. And that's what we're going to explore over the next several weeks. So we wanted to kick it off with a little bit of what I trust is an inspiring video for you. So let me set that up, and I trust you'll enjoy this. We're going to be back in about 4 minutes. Kick back and watch this. Where'd it go? What We Believe by Ernest Holmes. We believe in God, the living Spirit Almighty, one indestructible, absolute, and self-existent cause. This one manifests itself in and through all creation, but is not absorbed by its creation. The manifest universe is the body of God. It is the logical and necessary outcome of the infinite self-knowingness of God. We believe in the individualization of the Spirit in us, and that all people are individualizations of the one Spirit. We believe in the eternality, the immortality, and the continuity of the individual soul, forever and ever expanding. We believe that heaven is within us, and that we experience it to the degree that we become conscious of it. We believe the ultimate goal of life to be a complete freedom from all discord of every nature, and that this goal is sure to be attained by all. We believe in the unity of all life, and that the highest God and the innermost God is one God. We believe that God is personal to all who feel this indwelling presence. We believe in the direct revelation of truth through our intuitive and spiritual nature, and that anyone may become a revealer of truth who lives in close contact with the indwelling God. We believe that the universal Spirit, which is God, operates through a universal mind, which is the law of God, and that we are surrounded by this creative mind, which receives the direct impress of our thought and acts upon it. We believe in the healing of the sick and the control of conditions through the power of this mind. We believe in the eternal goodness, the eternal loving kindness, and the eternal givingness of life to all. We believe in our own soul, our own spirit, and our own destiny. For we understand that the life of all is God. And so it is. Until next time, go forth and prosper.
Mic's off.
Oh, there we go.
There we go.
So, the first part of that, Z, is thank God my production quality has increased in the last 3 years. My audio production. I've learned a few things.
Yes, yes.
But really, in so many ways, folks, when we look at this and what we want to do is kind of dig in to this very first idea. We believe in God, the living spirit, almighty, one indestructible, absolute, and self-existent cause. Exactly. And it was always that last little bit that got me, that what exactly is a self-existent cause?
Mm-hmm.
Right? How do we determine? And so Z, I'm gonna throw that one right at you, unprepared, of course.
That's okay.
How do you share with people, what is this idea of a self-existent cause?
Well, I think for me, what made it clear for me, and as we move now into quantum physics realm, we begin to be able to get an inkling of it, is that if we look at the quantum world, there are activities and elements, and there is this whole foundation, if you will, that everything sits on top of,
Right,
from a quantum perspective. And we look at the concepts of non-locality and correlation of photons of light. And anytime we start talking about light and energy and all of those types of things, in my summation of it, it is spirit. That is the outpouring of God. That
right,
energetic spirit, photonic, if you will, energy that everything is created from. And so, as we can see from the photonic world, things can emerge out of that, but it never stops other things from emerging, because it is a self-existing, indivisible self-cause. So it can cause things to happen spontaneously from that quantum realm, but it never wipes out the thing itself.
right. Exactly. I think, and that's key, right? That no matter how much is created, no matter how much we experience on the planet, the source is never depleted,
Right.
can never run dry. And so I always look at it, that is that origination point. Cause is the origination point. It's from the cause that we move into the world and create something, that something is been created. So a self-existent cause is a cause that's conscious. It's a creation point that's actually conscious, that we're creating. And I got,
yeah, I was gonna say, just maybe to put a little capstone on that, we can go to Einstein's statement that energy can't be destroyed, it can only change forms. And so we look at it in that way. And so we can see the evolution of spirit. We can see not so much the evolution of God, but the self-expression of God that allows us to know it better and in different ways.
yeah. What do you think, folks? How would you describe God? Right, we're in this statement, we're saying we believe. Well, all right, and let us be clear. Ernest Holmes wrote these. There's no question in the history of the science of mind, of religious science, that these statements were originally written by Dr. Ernest Holmes. Now, there is some debate, there is some, and if the great Reverend Marilyn Leo happened to ever hear this, I'm sure she might be able to clarify this for us. But there's some that say Holmes crafted these as part of a talk. There's others that say these were written as a response to a letter that Holmes received at the Institute for Religious Science, and that he just sat down and wrote this down as a kind of answer to someone's letter. Here you go. This is what we believe. And over the years, there have been some altercations and some iterations, some different versions of this. We believe that what we're working with here is as close to the original as anybody knows. It comes from the Science of Mind archives. And a big shout out to the people at the Science of Mind archives. They do a great work at preserving this history. So, if we sat down and somebody said, okay, Dr. Holmes, what is it you believe? He starts by saying, we believe in God, and defines God as living spirit almighty, one indestructible, absolute, and self-existent cause. That's his definition. What's your definition? How would you define what we believe as far as God, the living spirit almighty? Now he continues, and in the next statement says, this one. So almost immediately we start to create the corollary between God and oneness. God as the one. The one is God. So, and remember, in the Science of Mind textbook, I think it's over 250 different words that Holmes uses to try to, as names of God: Spirit, Allah, Buddha, Brahma, Yahweh, Vishnu, Kuan Yin, Source Energy, George, whatever you want to call it, right? The one manifests itself in and through all creation, but is not absorbed by its creation.
Mm-hmm. That's key.
Yeah.
Because just a quick flashback. When I think about even in Islam, God is identified as Allah, but then there's also the 99 names of Allah, which highlights different aspects: El Qudus, El Salam, El Mu'min, El Muhaymin, all these other different attributes, if you will, are ways of describing an indescribable thing with one word.
Right.
Because it's self-existing and constantly creating, different aspects are revealed to us so that we may better understand. And then when we move to this next one, where it says ultimately that no matter how many ways the thing itself expresses, it will never be absorbed by these things that are created, because as the situation dictates, a new attribute, a new expression, a new quality of God may be revealed.
Right. So we can never be bigger than God. No one thing, no one organization, no one belief system, no one religion can be bigger than the all of all, than the one, than God.
Yeah.
And I love this, because in that is the promise that if nothing can be bigger than God, then nothing is too big for God either.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Something
might come to me and feel like it's too big for me to deal with. But when I rest in that knowingness that, but wait a minute, I'm a perfect expression of God here. So how could there be anything that's actually too big for God?
Yeah.
I got to be.
And that thing where it says it's indestructible and it's absolute qualifies that statement, because not me, but God can never be absorbed, and you can't destroy it. It is manifested in everything in creation. And that gives us the ability, as you were just indicating, I think, to really begin to study different things in reality, if you will, different aspects of nature, to get a better understanding of the power, the principles, the laws, all of these different aspects that makes up this world we live in, to get a better understanding of what God is, how it operates, and how we can use it, if you will, as Ernest Holmes would always say. There's a power greater than I am. I don't quite understand all of it, but I know I can use it.
Yes. And do I let it use me?
Yeah.
That's another episode, though, folks. So, hey, if you're just joining us, this is New Thought Today. I'm Rev BRZ, my co-host Rev Z, and we get together every Tuesday at 2 Mountain Time here on the New Thought Media Network to look at the principles and the practices and of what makes religious science and New Thought viable today. And what we're looking at today is a little bit of our history looking at the Declaration of Principles as ascribed by Dr. Ernest Holmes. And what we're just talking about there is this one manifests itself in and through all creation, but is not absorbed by its creation. And it would therefore logically follow that the manifest universe, that's like all of the universe, is the body of God. And it is the logical and necessary outcome of the infinite self-knowingness of God. The whole universe is necessary because that is God knowing itself. God coming to know it, the allness of itself.
Yeah, and you know that one sometimes become a tough pill to swallow for some folk, right?
Yep.
Because you know we get into the conversation about does God have a body, right? And we can go down that track and really go into some real heavy conversations. But I think from my study and understanding and my just intuitive hit is that this idea of the manifest universe being the body of God is a part of the dual concept of life as opposed to the spirit of God, which is God Almighty. So as the spirit of God, to exemplify and to exhibit my greatness and my vast understanding of principles and laws that operate in the cosmos, I can manifest things, people, places, mountains, animals, so that it is a reflection of me from a physical standpoint, but the ultimate standpoint of God is the spirit itself, as it says, the living spirit almighty, which from that quantum spirit realm, all things are possible. And this creation is one of those possibilities.
Right. Exactly. And this creation is only one of the possibilities. We can change that possibility, the probability, based on the power of our mind, based on the power of our thoughts. I love that. I've always had this, and part of the essence of my personal prayer work is that sense of knowing that the oneness that is life, that God already knows everything. It is yet, though, my personal revelation that opens up, from my experience, a greater opportunity within this experience of God, if you will, or body of God, if you will.
And that's key, because it makes me go back to the word that you just said there was before you went into that statement was probability. So there's possibilities, but then there's probabilities, and there's a difference between the two terms. And the probability of a thing happening increases as certain laws and events and things are put in place. And so from our perspective as religious scientists, the more we use the science of mind to do a thing or to increase the probability of that thing, it becomes manifest as something that God is working through us, whether that's what we call success or good health or, you know, a helping hand. No matter what it is, it increases from a possibility, which all things are possible. But the more I activate the law and live those principles in my life, it now becomes more and more of a probability until actually it becomes the manifest thing itself.
Exactly. Yes. Yes, 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 yes. Ooh, see, and that leads me to that place of being able to remember that I am not here just saying, ooh, poof, I want this and I want that, and having it all manifest immediately. Just we don't just sit around and wait for the gold brick to drop in our hand. We are in the place of creating the environment and the conditions through our mental work, through the work of our belief, through the work of our prayer work, through the work of our meditation and all of our practices, to create the atmosphere where the possibility becomes the probability. And then the probability becomes the eventuality. It real quickly, it goes from becoming probable to, oh, this is happening. And That is where the magic really lies.
And something key you said there was this whole concept of environment that these things take place in. You know, one of Ernest's teaching instruments was the seed soil plant,
Yes.
which I think is just brilliant, because you can substitute the seed for the idea and so forth, and just go down that scale, in terms of how things go from a possibility to a probability to a manifestation. And we know that if we take a physical seed and we try to plant it to get that manifestation of the plant itself, if it's not in the right environment, it's not going to grow, or it's not going to grow as healthy or full as it can. So the ability to put a seed in the proper environment increases the probability that it will bear fruit.
Yes.
And that same thing is happening for us. We have an idea, we have a concept that we want to put in motion, put in reality. Based on the environment that we put it in, it becomes a probability and a manifestation based on those laws and principles that work universal.
Yes. Yes. All right. Hey, folks, speaking of which, we're going to take a quick break here and let you be, if you don't know already, we're going to give our sponsor just a moment to say hello. But what you're about to hear was only an idea until we wrapped it in a whole bunch of prayer and a whole bunch of mental work, and it became a probability. And now it's a reality and has been for over a year. Check this out. This is New Thought Radio.
New Thought Radio, music from all your favorite New Thought artists. From Jamie Lula, Karen Drucker, Gary Lynn Floyd, Ricky Byers, Daniel Nahmod, Eddie Watkins Jr., and many, many more. 24/7 New Thought Radio. Positively inspiring.
All right, and we're back, folks. This is New Thought Today, part of production of the New Thought Media Network, and we want to say a big shout out to New Thought Radio for helping to create that environment 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. ntmedia.org or newthoughtradio.net, and get your groove on. Get that background music going. There's some great stuff happening over there. So, okay, so Z, we're talking today. Excuse me. We're talking today about the Declaration of Principles by Dr. Ernest Holmes. Let me pull up our slide there again. And where we've been kind of checking out here is the manifest universe is the body of God, is the logical and necessary outcome of the infinite self-knowingness of God. And that leads us right into that recognition that we believe in the incarnation of spirit in every person, and that all people are incarnations of this one spirit. Now, help us. This to me is that place where, okay, we're starting to move from a recognition of God's life into a recognition that we are unified with as God's life.
Yes. And that, for me, that one key statement there is all people are incarnations of the one spirit, because we know without a doubt that if we equate or correlate the idea of God with energy and energy with spirit, which breaks down into an unseen photonic world in the quantum physics world, we know that everything that becomes manifest, whether it's seen or unseen, at its essence, there's photonic light, photonic energy that is the root of it. And so we look at the human body. The human body has also been described as one of the best examples of an electromagnetic field or entity, because we know that the energy creates a magnetic polarity, our heartbeats, our chemical electro nerve system that send things around, and that is the Spirit of God moving through this manifestation that has been created. And so from that realm, we are the incarnation. God has, as it says in a lot of the traditions, God has breathed its breath into us. That energy has been fused into the matter and activated the quantum physics perspective, the quanti that's in each piece of material, and made it activated.
Yes.
And that's what happens when we split atoms. That's what happens when we burn coal. Shouldn't burn too much of that. But all those things, when we're able to increase the energy level to release energy from matter, it is a direct correlation to the incarnated spirit of the divine in each and every one of us, person, place, or thing.
Yes. So really, we can never be separate from God, for we are the stuff of God.
Yes.
And that's what, and that was also, has always been one of the greatest reminders for me, that it's not really me doing this work. The I that thinks I am Robert Brzezinski is not the same I am that is the God I am. And I know it gets twisted, right, folks? It gets a little jumbled in the brain sometimes, because it's not just that I am God. It's that all of God is available to express as me in any moment. In any moment. Now, why then am I not a rocket scientist? Why am I then not a brain surgeon? Personal choice reigns free. We always maintain that personal choice. And that doesn't mean that I fully believe that if it were a matter of life or death, I could summon the divine download that would allow me to do brain surgery. And if I screw it up and you die, well, then that was what was meant to happen anyway. But I really do believe in that ability for any one of us to say, I'm tapping into my own incarnation, into my own awareness, and I am an incarnation of everything, of the allness of life. And live in that place of trusting that the knowledge and the wisdom and the insight and whatever's necessary for me to know in the moment shows up as it's necessary to know. Yeah. And right now, I don't need to know how to do brain surgery, but I know how to pray.
Right.
Right.
And we've seen, how many times have we seen stories where a small mom child is under something heavy, they're able to lift this thing up for that to happen. Or, different stories where something happens that seemed to be an impossible feat for the individual or individuals who are doing it, but in fact, it did happen. Yeah. Because I think, one thing that you said there that I think, again, some people have a little trouble getting their head around when people start saying that I am God, right?
Right.
I am a personification of God. But the key thing that I think you said that makes it real clear is that because we are a vessel of the divine, God can express itself through us at any level, in any place, and to any magnitude that it wants. And I'll take everybody back to those early science classes where they took the iode and they rubbed it on their shirt, and they were able to turn it into a magnet. But before they did that, it had no magnetic power at all. But it was because of that action that the magnetic principles that already existed in that iron ore were put in alignment with the spirit itself. Yep. And now it was able to do a magnetic thing, which is a representation of the thing itself.
Yes. So let's go back to your example of a woman lifting a car off a child. Right, or a man lifting a car off a child. This is a gender-based here, right? Car's pretty heavy. Have you ever tried to lift one? I have. All right. So now a lot of people say, "Well, that's just adrenaline. That's just adrenaline. That's just adrenaline." Well, adrenaline's God too, right? That physical. If I think a lot more people would hit the button for a shot of adrenaline like that if we just could do it in an immediacy and whenever we wanted. And a lot of us chase that sense of that adrenaline rush. Now, this is far beyond any normal human adrenaline rush this is the miracle, but it's all God. From that rush of adrenaline to the woman, and what often happens in that place is the person, male or female, we move beyond the human limitation of saying, I can't do this. We move beyond our own limiting beliefs that say that car is too heavy for me to lift. I'm not strong enough for that to lift. And when we can suspend that disbelief, then we move into that place, as he's talking about, of pure alignment. Mm-hmm. And that's where there's nothing that hinders the expression of God through and as our lives.
And you know, you bring to mind this whole idea. One of the ways often that this new thought philosophy, if you will, is articulated is ancient wisdom, modern practice, right?
Right.
Or ancient, you know. So we look back at the ancient world, and we look back at some of the things they were able to create, like pyramids and colossus and all of these megalithic things that even to this day, some of them we can't duplicate with all of our technology. So right. we understand from that example that the wisdom, the understanding, the way of channeling the Spirit of God has been around forever. It is the work of each person and each society is to find themselves in alignment with that, to be able to create things and monuments and knowledge that is beyond our comprehension at this point, and know that if we tap into that wisdom, we can do it again. We can bring it forward. And that's what this whole thing is about. How do we do that?
Yeah. It's as we've been sharing, right? And here's the thing. Okay, to do that consciously is one thing, and to do it unconsciously is another. And sometimes even the unconscious works out. As we've been sharing, I'm reminded of a story that my eldest child is 15 now, and yeah, as a baby, oh my God, there were some nights. I know any parent out there knows exactly what we're talking about. And it was 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, and I had been cradling him in my arms for an hour now and just nonstop crying. Nothing was working. I am so incredibly tired. I am so incredibly out of unconscious, really, but so aligned that something inside me said, just crawl in her crib and curl up with her and she'll be fine. So I did. Now I was kind of conscious that if I do this, it's going to be tough to get back out. I'm 6'1", right? You know, and I know that this crib is going to be pretty tight, but I'm at my wit's end and I hear God saying, just crawl in the crib. It'll be fine. And I'm like, all right, I don't get it, but I'm going to do it. Crawled in the crib. Everything's 20 minutes go by. Baby finally quiets down. Baby finally falls asleep. I finally climb out of the crib. The next morning, my wife asks me what happens, and I tell her the story. She's amazed. And about an hour later, she's on the phone with her sister or a friend or something, tells the story again. And that person is the first one to say, wait, what? He climbed in the crib and it didn't fall apart? And that's when we thought about it. You know, you're right. And this crib had been in the family for 20, 30 years. It's not like it was the newest thing in the world. I'm weighing about 200 pounds at the time, and I climbed in the crib and it held me up. Now, my point in all of this is I never for 1 second thought to myself, that's not safe. That can't work. I can't climb in that crib. I can't fit. It's not gonna. I never for 1 second considered that it wouldn't hold me up, that I wouldn't be supported, that everything was that. Hey, I was told, I heard the voice say, crawl in there and everything will be fine. We know these things are happening in your life as well. This is the alignment. When that voice says, do it, it'll be fine. Do I argue with the divine? Or do I place my trust in that and say, okay, yep, I'll follow orders. Yes, sir. Here we go.
Well, and you know, and just think about it. How many times have we talked ourselves out of something because of little faith or trying to rationally understand it? And then for some reason at the end, we just follow through and the thing works. And we've spent, you know, X number of hours debating and all that, which we could have done that a couple hours ago and it'd been done.
Yep. And then we think it's a miracle that it worked when it was like, no, it was destined to work. The miracle was that you actually listened.
Yes. And that's the thing, you know, part of the challenge that I found when you step into the metaphysical world and you're trying to create a map, if you will, between the seen and the unseen, is this ability to trust.
Yeah.
You know, we got all the evidence in the world. We've done, as they say in math, we've done the mathematical proofs, and we know as long as this holds and that holds and that holds, the equation on the other side is going to be the same. And so that ability to line up and trust and move when that fire, when that quantum energy moves through you. And I would submit every one of us has had those moments where we got an intuitive hit, that spark of spirit, and we know when it's true. Yeah. Now, we may doubt it, but we know, and we always come back. And one of the classic thing is, I should have followed my first mind.
Yep. I should have listened to myself the first time. Exactly. And you know, it does go both ways. I'm also in this discussion kind of reminded there are things that come through all the time that are part of the one that are not meant for me. Maybe I got in the way of the vibration. Maybe I stepped in front of somebody else's divine download. Maybe they need to hear it from me rather than somebody else to get it. I can't count how many great ideas have floated in and out of my head. And 6 months later, I see somebody else doing it. Or it's whether it's a product, whether it's a project, whether it's an idea. I have learned that not everything means you are the only one. You go do this. You go rush out and make this happen. There is a piece of alignment that says, wow, that's a great idea, but I don't know that that's mine to do. But perhaps it's just mine to share enough that somebody else picks it up.
Well, and you know, two things. One, that idea that you just expressed is one of Carl Jung's cornerstones of the whole idea of the collective conscious and archetypes, right?
Yep. Because
one way that is explained is that we have these thoughts, and they come out of us, and they go up into the atmosphere, and they coalesce as clouds with ideas, and they rain down. And so there are plenty examples in history where someone in one place was studying how to make a telescope, and then we come to find out at that exact same time, 2, 3, 4 other people in other countries who had not connected with each other came to the same conclusion at the very same time, relatively speaking. And yes. So that just speaks to that eternality and that constant renewal from the spirit into us. And I would invite everyone, as a side note, if you haven't seen that new Disney movie called Soul, it is a treat in understanding how this could possibly work in a visual place to see it. I think it's a great movie. It's animated, so it takes a lot of the sting out because it is animated. I think it's a must watch to continue delving into this understanding of the thing itself.
Gotcha. I will say it's been on my watch list. I haven't actually hit play on it just yet, but there's a tab open on my browser right now, yes. Just waiting for me to hit play. So I'm going to take that as a great recommendation. See, thank you. And you know, folks, we didn't know. I didn't think we were going to get here today, this far today, but we have. So here we are. Because that's Z is touching on the next statement in all of this. And if I can get rid of that banner there. All right. We believe in the eternality, the immortality, and the continuity of the individual soul forever and ever expanding. Now, this is a bit bigger. A little bit bigger. To me, this is where Holmes goes way deep in this talk, right? Because it's like, eternality of the soul. We get this question in religious science a lot, right? What do we believe about reincarnation? And I think this is a direct point that I don't believe in reincarnation. I believe in the eternality of the soul, forever continuing and growing and expanding. And so while my soul has chosen to take on this outfit, has decided to wear these outfits I'm affirming at least 130 years. So I got another 50 or 70 to go, I think. Let's say another 70 or 80 to go. What the heck? But every time that question comes up, it's like, well, no, to me, reincarnation means there's an ending, and in the traditional sense, and then I get a choice to come back, or maybe I don't choose, but I come back for another lesson, as if this one soul isn't enough, as if this one lifetime. So I'd love to hear a little of your thoughts on all of this, Z, and how you share this.
Well, one thing I like to Soul, watch that movie Soul. It'll give some good insight on this, number one. Yeah. Then number two is that this idea of ever expanding and how that works. We started at the beginning, said everything is an emanation from the thing itself. We're all infused with that spirit, so we have an understanding at our level of what God is. And so the process, as I like to always articulate it, is that our job here is not so much to learn, although there is learning going on, but that learning is only for the sole purpose, if you will, of remembering who we are and where we came from, because we are made from God's stuff. So I don't need to learn that. I need to remember that. And as we go through these different lessons and everything, we begin to get a grasp of that. And so this whole process about eternality and immortality and expanding is about allowing ourselves to understand more and more and more of what God is. And so the soul is that energy that never dies, but takes on a different form. So as we go through life, which is consisted of birth and death, that is the process. That is the cycle, which we see cycles all over the universe. Mm-hmm. That takes place with us as well in terms of understanding God itself and ourselves in alignment with that.
Yeah. And I love this. I always enjoy this aspect of our philosophy, right? Because the eternality, the immortality, the soul is forever creating and expanding and growing, and yet we can never outgrow God. We are always part of something bigger. There is always something bigger or something larger than us to explore, to come to know. And so I love it. And, this speaks to me in the ways that, so we have all these experiences of channels on the planet. And so many, and I people ask me all the time, well, do you channel? And it's like, well, no, but only to the effect, but yes, right. But I'm not here to channel some entity or some collective entities. And people get really weird when you say, well, no, I'm just sort of channeling God. Right. Or, well, no, it's more like it's just a channel to direct source, to absolute source. People get a little freaked out, like what's going on. But here's the fun part, right? None of this is unique to me or you. It's not like you or I, either of us, have any special ability. We weren't born with some Umbrella Academy type of power. We're born and we have grown into and we have expanded into, and like you said, there's learning going on, but it's not like this is some school that I'm going to live and pass and then I get to go back to heaven and go to the next grade. We're here, we're growing and expanding into the alignment, and as we find ourselves in that alignment, then there's no barriers anymore, there's no limitations anymore. There is really the openness to say, hey, this is what's going on, this is what I see, this is how I serve, this is how I show up, and we get to be what I believe is one of the major callings. We get to be a beneficial presence on the planet.
Yeah. And I think, to add to that is that no one, no matter what philosophy or religious system or ideology one follows, there's always this concept of a prophet or a messenger, depending on which one of those systems of thought that you're aligning with.
Right.
They're channeling God, right? The difference between a prophet and a messenger is a prophet is supposedly one that has received a direct revelation that has been captured in some form, and a messenger is someone who's captured that or aligned themselves with that same message, and they come as a mouthpiece to confirm it, but not necessarily have something in writing. Well, if that's the case, we all have the ability to be channels for God, to get an inspirational thought through the quantum field and align ourselves with the thing itself and express that clearly. If we are in alignment, we are trusting, we are believing, we understand that there's an immortality and that God has manifested itself in all creation, boom, that can happen. But, as some people say, I'll let somebody else put a label on what I do. I'm just going to do what I do. And if it helps, amen. If it doesn't, amen. And then we keep moving.
Yes, exactly. It's interesting. In many ways, these statements, what we believe, are as much about what we believe, but they really do point to how we live and how we can live, and a prescription for that livingness. And it's been said so many times, right? We're a human being having a spiritual experience. No. We're a spiritual experience having a spiritual we're a spiritual being having a human experience. I think we're a spiritual being having a spiritual experience, and as the human. Way as humans. And Holmes, from these writings and from the earliest, and this is what I've always loved about Science of Mind, and you touched on it earlier, it doesn't teach us what to believe. It teaches us how to think, how to believe, how to question, how to take this stuff and live it, so that we are not just a mouthpiece for it, but actually living it in the laboratory of real life. Yes. Proving to ourselves that these principles work. Yes. I don't need to prove to you they work. If it's working in my life, I don't need to prove to you they work, right? I just need to prove to me they work, because if they work for me, then I can keep making them work for me. And when I get my shit in order, sorry, that's the other show. When I get my stuff in order, then I'm better able to serve the evolution of everybody else's stuff too.
Yeah, and you made me think about something, and I want, in terms of reality. And I want to try to read it here, trying to post it. And this is something that I posted about 3 years ago. And it says, what is reality? Reality is not something abstract or theoretical. It has nothing to do with philosophy. Reality is the understanding of relationship, in being aware at every moment of our speech, our conduct, and the way we treat other people, the way we consider others. For behavior is righteousness, and in that there is reality.
Oh yeah. All right, folks, we need Z to post that online so we can all find it, right? You got to share that one around. Can't keep that one to yourself.
I will do it. I will. I'll put it on my Facebook post. I'll post the memory.
Yes, thank you. I love it. Right, this is what it's all about, folks. It's coming to that place of saying, okay, I get this stuff intellectually. Now, how am I going to use it? There is a power for good in the universe, and you can use it. The question is, how are you going to use this? Now, we're going to suggest you use it for good. We're going to suggest you use it in a way that uplifts humanity, that inspires humanity, that brings forward more good, more prosperity, more abundance, more love, more joy, all those things. You can use it on the other side of the equation if you want. But you might end up in politics. Oh, wait, did I say that? Yes. But you might not like how it serves you in return.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's I saw something that a cousin of mine posted the other day, and I'll try to find it and put that out too, repost his post, where he was talking about, he took words and said, here's a 4-letter word that's angry and fear or something like that. Although anger and fear are not the same in length, but he went through these contrasting ideas and said something to the effect that a sword is double-edged; it cuts both ways. So it's up to you, the wielder of that information, the wielder of that sword, to determine and make a effort of how you're going to use it. And that's what this stuff is. The principles, the laws, the same law that creates heat from my house is the same law that creates an atomic bomb. It's just how I use it, right? Yep. The same light that lights up a light bulb, and the same light energy that creates a laser that can do eye surgery, the same concept, same law applied in different ways, and you get vastly different results.
Yep. I always remember one of the early lessons I had in this philosophy was from one of the Bob Proctor appearances on a movie somewhere, and he would say, you can use electricity to cook a man's dinner or to cook the man.
Yeah.
Which do you prefer? I prefer to cook a man dinner.
Yes, exactly.
Well, hey, look at this, folks. We have effectively done it. You have invested another hour of your life in learning a bit more, we trust, about the New Thought philosophy and how you might use this philosophy in your life on a day-to-day basis. So I'm Rev BRZ.
I'm Rev Z.
This is New Thought Today. We'll be back with you again next Tuesday, 2 p.m. Mountain Time, and every week thereafter. Right now, we're looking at Ernest Holmes's famous and iconic Declaration of Principles, What We Believe, and we'll continue that conversation next week. Until then, peace and blessings.
Peace and blessings.